Good evening, everybody. Once again, we are back and we are still working on this planer stand for the, 10th video in a row, I think. But anyway, we are working on inlaid leg braces today. Now, I don't know if that's the proper name for them, but that's what I call them. So basically, I've got a couple pieces of black walnut milled down, and we did one. I did a practice one before I started running the camera, just because I wanted to make sure everything was going to go okay. And a couple things to improve upon the overall fit. I'm usually really good at inlays, and this came out pretty nice, but it's, you know, it's one of those things. I freehand it with the router and then I clean it up with a chisel. Basically, I get this shape cut first, then I trace it out where I want it. But anyway, the thing with this joint here, you do need some kind of a fastener to keep it in place unless you're going to do some kind of a sliding dovetail. But to be honest with you, looking at this, I don't think I'd be able to get a sliding dovetail together along with the mortise all, or the tenon in there all at once, because that thought had crossed my mind. But so anyway, what I do, I leave this a little bit proud, a little bit high. This is just about a 1/16 high, and then we go through the belt sander and clean it all up. If you need any kind of wood filler, you use your sawdust from like the walnut to make yourself a wood putty. That's like the woodworker's secret, you know, spackle and paint make a carpenter when he ain't, right? You know, it's but overall it's a really good fit. So we're going to see if we can do it just a little bit better on the other one, and I will walk you guys through step by step how we do this. Might be a long video tonight, but I think you guys are up for it, so stay tuned. I'll see you on the other side. Alright, let's see how well we can do this. I need to get my lighting figured out a little bit better. Maybe I do have some lens filters I could try out on those, because it's a little odd with the wood in here. But anyway, like anything, a really good sharp pencil. I've been picked on a couple times for my number 2 pencils, but number 2 pencils are good for you. You can sharpen them down nice, and the lead doesn't smear as much, or the graphite doesn't smear as bad as like an HB lead that's really soft. But HB lead will leave you a really nice dark line. So anyway, I already had these legs squared up where I want them. I measured down a foot off of each one of these. So from this corner here, we're a foot to here, and we're a foot to here, so we're 12 inches. Now, what we're going to do, and this is this is really easy. It's about as easy as it gets. So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to lay my piece where I want it here. Now this walnut is a little bit, this walnut has a little bit of a, just a little bit of a crown in it, or not a crown. It's got a pretty good bow in it, so it's kind of diving down a little bit. I don't throw walnut away. I mean, I don't throw walnut, mahogany, stuff like that, like a little piece of mahogany like this. I will save that forever, because someday I could probably, I mean, I've cut deer hoofs and inlaid them into stuff. I don't know if you guys saw the draw knife video a while back, but I had a table I made out of a half log, and I inlaid deer hoofs into it with the mahogany. So I don't throw that stuff out. It's just too good. But all I do with these, I said, it's about as simple and easy as it gets. I get it on my points where I want them, and all I do is trace it out. When you're tracing this stuff out, get it as tight to the piece as you possibly can, and it'll help you be a lot more accurate in your cuts on these. Now, I like to know which way is going to be up. So I put an arrow. I always have my arrows where they point up. When you're laying stuff out, kind of pick a layout method that works for you. Don't just go by whatever everybody else is doing. You know, do one that works for you, one that you can easily remember. So all I'm going to do, because I want this piece, I need something to lock this piece in. Granted, it's screwed in, but it looks a lot nicer if you have a little bit of an angle in there and lock it in. That's how those old style braces were. Like I said, probably a good video to reference to see kind of what I'm talking about. On Mr. Chickadee, he made a capstan winch using pretty much the same kind of braces that we're doing here. And pretty good detail though there. It's a lot bigger, it's easy to see. He had really good lighting, he was outside on that one. Makes it a lot easier to see what we're doing. So anyway, I digress. Always digress. So I do. I just measure it an inch up that line. I said this is a really easy joint to do. The hard part's getting a good tight fit. Just like it is anytime you're going to do any kind of an inlay type deal. Now this is going to be waste. This is going to be waste. And then I leave these just a little bit long, so I'll mark it out. I'll leave it like an 1/8 inch long on each end, and that way I can sand it down. Because what's nice when you sand stuff like this down, especially a light wood into a dark wood, if you don't have an exact, perfect, beautiful tight fit, where you can't see a seam, that sawdust will pack in there a little bit. And then you can make a wood putty also. Like I said, that's, I think, every woodworker out there, that's pretty well how they do it. So we've got the shape laid out on here. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and cut this off camera, and then I'll show you guys the shape we're working in, because you can't really see the lines on the camera right now. So stay with me. All right. So we cut this out. I use a circular saw, and then I finish it off with a pole saw. So the only measuring I do, like I said, the only measuring I do on this is I measure off of these corners to my 1 foot, and then I just lay the pieces where I wanted them, get them lined up on my marks. Get it all lined up here. I get it lined up on my marks, and then I trace the pieces that I cut. So if there's any inconsistencies or anything, I get it right the first time. Now, I find what helps me, and I don't know why, I'm kind of getting back into the groove of, I haven't done any fine woodworking in a very long time, so I'm kind of getting back into the groove, and you kind of forget some things and what you're doing and whatnot. But anyway, so when you're going to trace this out, something I like to do to make sure I get it nice and tight, before I make these cuts up here, I'll lay out the bottom of it. The lines, I'll just trace the board. That's all I'm doing is tracing the board. But then once I get these pieces cut out, I'll take it back over, and when I go to trace the other side, I'll just barely cover this line so I can barely see the edge of my pencil line. And then when I go to chisel this out, I'll go to the inside of my pencil line, and then I just adjust where I need to adjust with the chisel. So the next step we have here, because I have all this laid out, but the next step we're going to need, we got to router this material out. But as always, we're going to go through and we're going to kerf it first with our chisel, or whatever you call it. I know my terminology sucks. I know somebody's going to say it when you do it with the chisel, it's not kerfing. But that's what we're going to do. So stay tuned. There we go. We got a spot right there. We can. Well, I guess now we get to the honesty portion of the video. As always, we always find ourselves at this point. And what I mean by that now is the point where we find, did it fit? How good of a job did we do? So, she's not going to go down quite yet, and that is quite intentional. So I get everything as close as I possibly can with the chisel, the router, and then I lay it on top, and then I just trace it out again wherever it's not going to quite fit and quite go down. We pare those areas down. Better to be a little slower with it and take your time. So it looks like our big hold-up spot is right up here. And we have to take like a 1/16 of an inch we have to pare off of that. And that's not too bad to do. We'll, there it is. We'll strike our line one more time, just to the inside of the pencil line though, because we don't want to take too much. And really slowly just work it down. This is where you will appreciate a very sharp chisel. I'm of the firm belief that if you can't shave with the chisel, you need to go back to the stone. See some guys go absolutely nuts with their sharpening, which is good, nothing wrong with that. There we go. Let's see if she'll go this time. I'll tell you how much I love black walnut. And we're almost there right on that one. This side still wants to wreak a little bit of havoc. But I really don't want to take much more off than we did, quite honest. I could pound it in there, but then you end up crushing your the grain of the wood quite a bit. It gets a little maddening when you're just shaving off tiny little bits. Oh. There we go. Now let's see if we can tap it down with the block. Is ready to make the camera jump a little bit. Love making the camera jump, but as you can see, that is a nice tight fit, and that's what we're looking for. It's not too shabby, is it? Remember how I said little bits? I took a little bit too much off right there. That stinks because the rest of it fits just absolutely beautiful except for about a space like that. But that can be taken care of when we go to sand everything down. Any little spot where it's not tight, I'll take the sawdust from this. Like I said, I don't know a single woodworker that I know that doesn't do it. You take and make your own wood putty to match this walnut. You take and save the sawdust and mix it up with wood glue. You fill it in there nice and it does a really good job. It's very hard when you're going to dark wood against really bright wood. Any little mistake in that fit up is going to show. Now this right here, these are just cut with a circular saw. I didn't do any planing or chiseling on that. It's just a circular saw and the Japanese pole saw. And it comes out pretty good. That's kind of the benefit of being left-handed is I can see where that blade is because I run the saw in my left hand. I can see that blade all the time no matter what I'm doing. Now remember, we left this about a 1/16 of an inch proud. That way I could sand everything down flush to work nice. So, on the other thing, this brace right here, like I said, you need some kind of a mechanical fastener with a brace like this. So we're going to pop a couple of holes in here, we're going to countersink them, we're going to put a couple of 2.5 inch screws into each one, and then we have some 3/8 oak dowel material to put in there, and then we'll sand it all down. Okay. You know, every time I get into a project, I stack everything on the floor right where I'm working instead of hanging it back up, stuff like that. So anyway, I'm going to center these as best as possible on here. So 5 inches there, we'll go 2.5. And up here, 4 inches, I believe. Yeah, pretty close to 4 inches. I know it's hard to see the pencil lines against this dark wood, but we'll do the best we can. You can kind of place these where you want. I just try to, I gotta go 1.5 inches in. 1.5 inches in. Take our handy dandy countersink. What's nice about these countersinks is they already have a bevel right there, so if you're using a screw with a bugle head on it, that bevel's not going to split that wood out on you. Craig screws are really nice too, but I don't have any long enough. Craig screws work really nice for this kind of thing. Oh, I love it when the screw on these little set screw strips out. And of course, it's so damn worn out you can't even get the friggin' Allen wrench in it. Oh, I love that. Okay. Don't go crazy with these. You would hate to do all that work and then split that damn thing. Okay, time to do a little doweling and gluing. I don't go glue happy. Just a little drop in the bottom of each of them and then a little bit on the dowel. It's kind of messy dealing with all that squeeze out. There we go. Trim those off. If you're careful with them, you can do it while the glue's still wet. They fit in there just tight enough. Well, even my pole saw is rusty. And just give them a little tap just in case I knocked them out of there at all. The rest will trim down with the belt sander, but not until it's fairly dry. Alright folks, there's one side ready to go. My camera just died, so who friggin' knows how much of that footage we lost. I won't know until I'm in editing. But so I like to start on the back side of something that's not going to be seen a lot when I'm doing a process that I have not done in a very long time, because then if the fit's not quite right, it's not going to be seen quite so much. Granted, you'll know it's messed up, I'll know it's messed up. It wasn't as tight on this one, on the first one we did, but like I said, it has been a number of years since I've done it. But by the time we got to this one, it's a really nice tight fit. Now granted, I know this is just sitting up in a shop, but part of the reason I'm doing this, I'm trying to get back into the practice of doing this stuff. The good practices. Nothing will teach you patience better than something like this, than any kind of woodworking. It is a major patience game. If you try to hurry through it or you try to cut corners, you never quite get the results you want, and then you're kind of screwed. You'll be mad at yourself. And you do this kind of thing because you enjoy doing it, not because you want to be pissed off all the time. This is therapy for the soul, doing things like this. This is why I do it as much as I do, because I'm the kind of person who needs that. I need that relaxation. And you have times in a project where something goes wrong, but I've gotten to the point over the years where I used to get really upset if I screwed something up, if I made a mistake. And I always show them on the videos, and I'll get the comments, don't be hard on yourself, you know what I mean? It's not about being hard on yourself. For me, when I show a mistake, I'm showing you that everybody does it. Now, I'm not a professional. I'm not I'm not on the same level of woodworking as a lot of YouTubers out there, but I'm learning. You learn every project, you pick up little tricks every project. You can only watch videos so much to try to learn what to do, but you're not really going to know what to do until you have the tools in your hand and you're actually doing it yourself. Every project you take many lessons away from, and I find the same as for me. So this is one side ready to trim the legs down to final length, and we're ready to sand this one down, polyurethane it. We do have to do, I'm still trying to decide how I want to tie the two halves together here. Haven't quite decided. I may use some black walnut planking and do some more through mortises up here so I can put like a sawdust catch bin underneath this thing, or a planer shaving bin, something like that. Eventually we are going to do dust collection in the shop. It's going to come up from down below. So, but that's probably going to be a few years away. For now, it's dust masks and everything else. And I'm getting a lot better about wearing them because, like I say, you know, mentioned before, we had a viewer pass away here a month or so ago, and he was only 61 years old, and that was because he worked in a cabinet shop his entire adult life, and he never wore a dust mask until it was too late. So the COPD got him, and I'm in my late 30s, and I'm just now starting to wear one, and I wish I had started wearing one years ago, because you can feel it a little bit, you know. You're always congested, you're always hacking shit up, and so not that I'm a huge safety guy, but you get to a certain point in life where you want to start taking care of yourself a little bit better, because you get to the realization you're hitting an age where, hey, that can happen to you. So anyway, there's my lecture on dust mask and whatnot. So that's where we're at. We're going to keep going. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. I love the looks of black walnut. Black walnut against a bright colored wood is just the best. So you guys have a good one. I'll see you on the next one. You know, I was about to leave you guys without seeing this half of it put together. We still have plenty of sanding work, finishing work to do on it, and we got to trim the legs down, but this is how she stands tonight. So now you guys can get an idea at least what it's going to be looking like when we get to the other side of this thing. This is going to be the back side, so this will be the side towards the workout room, which will have a wall separating it. But anyway, there she is, folks. Thanks for watching.